She is known for being a prolific diarist. Diarist?
What is that?
So she wrote over 5 million words in her diary over her life.
Holy
24 volumes.
What?
And not only was it written, like handwritten, it was also in code that involved Greek, Roman symbols.
Why were people so extra back in the day? They had no internet.
I know,
I guess
literally.
so, yeah.
And it's like also replete with, I think what they liked to do in the 18th, 19th century was just like wordplay, because it was like their LOL. It was like their brat, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So they had a lot of abbreviations and a lot of nicknames. So it would take over 9 years of constant work to translate all of her diaries. So only certain pieces have been done.
Iconic.
But because of her diaries, we learned about England. We learned about local politics, the weather. We learned about local mining, and also super, super, super explicit lesbian encounters.
Nom.
Doing goddesses
Give it to
work
me.
here.
Super explicit. Yeah. So let's learn a little bit more about her. So again, she's the second child, eldest daughter. Her father was Captain Jeremy Lister. He served in the British Army during the American War of Independence, which aka the Revolutionary War. But I guess that's what they call it there. So that's history. This was a time where most women needed to seek out a man in order to have a life.
For sure.
To have money, to have status, to have clothes, to have children, whatever, to have titles, etc. But she was third or fourth in line to potentially inherit her family's estate, which was called Shibden Hall. So Shibden Hall, her aunt, also named Anne, another Anne Lister.
Not Aunt Anne.
Aunt Anne. And an unmarried uncle named James. They owned Shibden Hall. She would visit there frequently because she didn't really get along with her family. They never had to work. Her family never had to work because Shibden Hall collected rent. They had other properties and so whatnot. So she was in line to maybe inherit this place if if all the boys died. Sorry, that's sad. But she ended up her aunt had enough money to send her to boarding school. So she went over to Manor House School in York, and her aunt paid her way there. And there she was relegated to this attic room that they would call the slope. And I think she was sent there because
Lesbian.
Well, we'll get that. I promise you there will
Plot
be
twist.
lesbians.
She's a lesbian.
Oh my God, I'm shocked. But she probably got relegated there because her family didn't have as much money as some of the other girls at Manor House. But it just so happened that this other girl named Eliza Rain, remember that name, Eliza Rain, she was the illegitimate half-Indian daughter of an East India Company surgeon in Madras. So she was brought to Yorkshire after his death, and she was actually set to inherit a lot of money, but she was also relegated to the slope because racism.
Oh.
Just a little bit of racism. She had money, but she was just a little brown.
Yeah.
So gross. So they lived in the slope together, and first it was a cute little friendship, and then it formed into an intense physical relationship, which was documented.
We're getting the juicy part. Okay,
documented,
good.
In her journals. They lived together for 2 years. Things were very hot and heavy. They really loved each other. They always talked about getting married. For Anne, she was always like, I want to marry a woman, like from the very get-go. And that was not a thing, but it wasn't technically illegal at the time.
Yeah.
It just wasn't legal.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it wasn't outlawed, but it wasn't in law. Like in law. Married. Oh my God. So all of a sudden, they wrote to each other in code all the time. And that's where Eliza helped develop that alphabet, that Greek alphabet with zodiacs and punctuations and mathematical symbols.
People had a lot of time back then.
Yeah. I feel if you were to read my journal, it'd be too on the nose.
Exactly.
Dick in at, like, it would just be too forward.
So their relationship got found out. I think some of the journals were found out, and someone broke some of the code, and then Anne was kicked out of school. So Eliza was allowed to stay. Anne was kicked out of school. It was a big deal. But Eliza would still come visit Anne for every school break, which is really sweet. Like, that's really cute.
Yeah.
But thing is, Anne, once she left school, she started just feeling out her prospects.
Yeah.
Meeting a lot of women.
Yeah.
Going around to a lot of things. Most notably with this girl named Isabella Norcliffe. She was offering her flute lessons. Oh, sorry, that's someone else. Sorry. Isabella Norcliffe was just like a high society girl that she met in York, and it was cute. And Isabella introduced her to the love of her life, Marion Belcombe. And she was also giving flute lessons to an unmarried woman named Maria Alexander. And one time she brought Eliza, who came home, during Christmas break, brought her to Maria's house and flirted with Maria in front of Eliza. Like crazy.
Wow.
Like
Toxic.
crazy.
Drama.
Like crazy.
Flute lessons.
Yeah, flute lessons. Also in her diary, she had notations for orgasm and notations for how far they hooked up and notations for masturbating.
Oh.
So she would document all the times that she masturbated. So there's all these like symbols that if you look through her diary, you're like, oh,
That's why her diaries are so long.
they're so long. Yeah, so many O's. So many O's. So Eliza goes back to school and she's stressed out. She's like, this is where the limerence comes in. She's writing to Anne constantly. We're still getting married, right? Like, you still think about me, right? Like, everything's still good with us, right? Everything's okay.
We've been there.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Anne is just like living her life, leaving her on red a bunch. Maybe when she returns.
Question.
Yes.
How big was their age difference? How old are they?
I think they're the same-ish age.
Okay.
Yeah, because they were in school at the same time.
Right.
So yeah, I think they are about the same age. But like Anne is leaving her on red and one time writes her a letter, because we have a lot of her letters, literally writes her a letter like, 21's a little young to like be thinking about living together.
After she's a fuckboy.
She's a fuckboy.
Yeah.
Jack's a fuckboy.
Yes. So that Isabella girl, they're hooking up. Isabella introduces her to Marion Belcombe, who becomes the love of her life. And then this is also a little bit limerent as well. Eliza's getting crazier and crazier. I think Anne is like thinking about maybe being with her, like, on and off. 1810, Anne's oldest brother passes away. So she becomes second in line to inherit. So Anne starts to think, you know what? I've got to marry someone. I still want to marry a woman. I've got to marry someone with some class and with some money. And Eliza, she's got money, but she doesn't have class because she's not recognized as a legitimate daughter, which is really fucked up. So basically, she stops answering Eliza. Things kind of fall apart. Eliza ends up going into an insane asylum owned by the father/brother of Mariana Belcombe.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Her new paramour. I know that was a lot of information.
Wait a second.
Wait, what happened in season 2?